Hi, you're listening to The Real Truth About You. And this is a show where we try to help you become the best that you can be so that you can live an abundant, full, and very blessed life by discovering the real you and then living that. I'm William St. Clair, and I'm going to be your host for today. I always forget to say my name at the start, so this is pretty good for me to be able to get my name out. But I want to, in this episode, I want to share with you a story from back in the 1980s when I was up in Fort McMurray, Alberta. That's in Canada, and the very way up north in Canada. I think after that it's like Antarctica and then space or something like that. But anyway, it's pretty far up north, and where it gets pretty cold in the winter, and the daylight seems to shine all 24 hours during the summer, 24 hours a day. One of those kind of communities. But anyway, I want to share a story with you about a nun that had come up there to do a guitar workshop for a weekend. And she asked me if I would help her, and because I already played guitar and I played not too bad, but I wasn't any kind of guitar teacher. But she asked me to help her out, so I said sure, okay. I was in my early 20s, and she guaranteed to take all these participants in this workshop, this guitar learning workshop, from absolute beginner to intermediate over the weekend, which is quite a big claim. And I remember when she first started, she taught people about the strings of the guitar and that kind of stuff, the very basics, you know, what the fretboard is and stuff. And then she started to show them how to pluck the guitar. And she taught them this pattern to do of plucking, and she got them to keep practicing and practicing and practicing. And this was a kind of mundane practice. It was like, holy, I was actually listening to these people, and they were plucking their strings, and I gotta be honest, it was pretty boring. It was the same pattern over and over by people who barely knew how to pluck strings. And they were actually mumbling, and some of them were grumbling and saying, why are we doing this? This is so stupid. I thought I was going to learn how to play guitar. And I think they practiced this thing for almost half an hour, this plucking. And it sounded so tediously monotonous and boring. And then the nun came and picked up a guitar and said, I just want to show you what you can do with this guitar plucking pattern. And she began to play. Well, all of a sudden, when everybody saw what you can do with this plucking pattern, everybody just grabbed their guitars and started plucking away. Or they just plucked and plucked and plucked until they got it right. And the thing I learned in this is sometimes when we're doing the daily mundane things of life, we don't realize what we're doing when we're working sometimes towards our goals. We have to be able to see what the end goal is. What's the purpose of what we're doing in life right now? Where are we going? What are we trying to do? Remember, the definition of insanity is trying to accomplish or achieve something different, a different result, by doing the exact same thing that you always do. You'll never get there. So where are you right now? Where are you in your life? And where do you want to be? There's so many things on the internet about setting goals. But the thing about setting a goal is it's great to have the technique and have it down how to set a goal. But my father-in-law always told me, especially when it came to buying software for a computer, he would say to me, he says, forget about the software. Ask yourself, what do you want it to do? Like, what are you trying to achieve? If you're trying to write a letter on the computer, then you need a word processor software. And that's pretty commonplace these days. But you don't go looking at, say, Microsoft Word to think about all the things it can do. You look at what you want to do, then you buy the software to match that. When I was getting into podcasting, it was the same thing. I realized I wanted to record my voice on the iPad or the computer, and so I had to look at what kind of software or what kind of app I could use to accomplish that. You have to look at what you want to do. What's your end result? Where do you want to be? Someone who's running a race, they don't just look at the track. They don't look at their feet. They look at the finish line. They imagine themselves running that race. They see the finish line in their mind. An athlete for the Olympics, when they're training for the Olympics, they said that almost 90% of their training is in their mind. By the time they get there to run or to swim or to dive or to do whatever their sport is, they've already done it so much in their mind that when they get there, it's just a matter of going through the motions. Sometimes we really have to look at where we want to be. Where do you want to be? What's your goal? What's your vision? When I decided that I wanted to do podcasting, I kind of stumbled. There we go. I kind of stumbled upon the concept of podcasting. I'd kind of heard about it before, but I'd never really gotten into it. And I realized I wanted to podcast. But why did I want to podcast? It's because I felt I had something to say. I had a message I wanted to get out. But what was that message? I didn't know at the time what the message was. But I knew that I wanted to podcast to get that message out. I knew audio was something I was really into. And sometimes you don't always see the end goal or the end big picture, the big vision, and you just have to start. But in the process of starting, I did know I wanted to end up with something that you could listen to, whether it's in your car, whether it's on your MP3 player, and you're jogging in the park, or whatever you're doing. I knew I wanted to have an audio that was ready for you to go. So I knew what my end result was, and I worked backwards to achieve that end result. So I knew you had to be listening to something. So that was my end result. Then I went through the steps of learning how to get to that point. For that, I needed a message. And the message had to be something that was passionate in me, and so I chose the message I chose. And then I realized I had to get it on something, so I needed a computer. And then I realized the computer needed software, so I looked for software. Then I realized that the software needs a microphone, so I picked up a microphone. And then I realized the microphone needed a little stand for it to sit on, so I got a stand for it to sit on. And then I realized I needed to learn how to podcast. Then I needed to learn how to get it out there, how to get it on all the different players and iTunes and all that kind of stuff. So I looked at the end goal, and then I stepped backwards through the processes till I got to the beginning point. And I didn't know exactly what the big vision was, but I knew unless I started, nothing would happen. Nothing would happen unless I started. And so I started. And I remember episode 1, me saying, I don't know if this is going to be 5 episodes, 2 episodes, 1 episode, or what it is. Well, I think this is episode 13 is what it is. So, hey, not bad. Not bad for somebody who usually changes and chops up everything all the time and moves on to other things. But I knew what I wanted in the end, and then I stepped backwards to that process. It's the same with a recipe for supper. You want to make something, cookies, or you want to make a meal. What do? You know in your head that's what you want. Then you go find the recipe wherever you get it from, and then you work back to the ingredients, and then you look at how to do that. And then you go ahead and you start. Because if you don't start, nothing gets accomplished. You need to start. And starting usually begins at the end. What do you want to do? And then work your way back. And then do everything in bite sizes. Like, don't try to accomplish great things. In my podcasts, I do it one podcast at a time. I thought I would try one a week and then see if I can accomplish that. Then after I started it and I realized I can actually sit down, maybe put out 2 a week. And now I'm doing, right now anyway, at this point in time, I'm doing 3 a week. I release them Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So I'm trying to work with that schedule. But I wouldn't have been able to get to that schedule, and I wouldn't have even known what to talk about or how to do it if I hadn't started. So I would highly encourage you, if you get a notion to do something and you feel like you really want to do it, but fear is the only thing stopping you, just get up and start it. Just get up and start it. The great thing is starting at the end and working your way back to how to do it. But you'll never be perfect at it. You'll never have the perfect plan put in place to make it work perfectly. You'll discover along the road. And I've said this before, entrepreneurs and people who get things done and people who are successful in life don't start out strong. They don't start out on full guns. They start out learning. They start out slow. They start out unknowing. They start out scared. It's okay to be scared, but just start. Take that first step. It might seem like a small step in the grand scheme of things. It might be one huge step for you. But I remember there's a motivational speaker from Calgary, Alberta. I think he's from Calgary, Seth Godin. And he's a really phenomenal speaker. He's just so, I love him because he's just so down to earth, and he's just got a way about him of saying things. And he had a book, a little booklet. It's called Out of the Box. And in that book, he said, one of the ways to make sure you get going is to leap beyond the point of no return, to jump into something head first. And my wife and I, we were thinking about starting writing an article for a newspaper on relationships. And we called the article Dirty Socks and Banana Bread, and I've been into that story in other podcasts. But one of the ways I locked myself into it and leapt beyond the point of no return is I thought, you know what, if I just leave it to the fact of, yeah, maybe we'll write an article here or there or a blog post or whatever, which is a great start. Don't get me wrong. You can do that. But for me and for us, I knew the way of leaping beyond the point of no return was to contact our local newspaper in town, just a small town rag, and ask them, hey, could we run a weekly article on relationships? And they said yes. Now we were locked in. And I think we started writing those articles, and we wrote them for almost 4 years. And as a result of that, we ended up with a book. Enough content to fill out an entire book, and so we came out with a book that's available on Amazon. But none of that would have started, or happened, I should say, if we hadn't started. You need to start. You cannot procrastinate. Don't wait until things are perfect. Don't wait till everything's in a row, the ducks in a row they talk about. It's like if you're waiting for everything to go right, it's like going into a major city. If you've ever been into a major city and they have one huge long main street with tons of traffic lights, it's like saying to yourself, I'm not going to move forward in my vehicle until every single traffic light turns green. Then I'll go. When every single traffic light in front of me is green, I'll go. You'll never move because it'll never happen that way. They're never synced that way. By the time you get to the second one, it'll probably be red. You'll probably have to stop and wait for it to turn green. So I would just go. Just make a decision in your life to start. To just start. Just go. I don't have yet a big picture vision for these podcasts. I don't have it. I know I've followed and signed up with other podcasters, and they know exactly where they're going. They know exactly what they're doing. They know the exact person that they're talking to, or who their audience is. They call it their avatar. I don't have a clue. I don't know that. I'm on episode 13, I think it is, and I just go by the show until I finally find that vision, till I discover who my audience truly is, who's listening, what my message truly is. Right now, just go, just do it. So if you're thinking about starting something, I would just do it. Just begin. Because like Seth Godin says, the world is waiting for you. They are hungry for what you have to tell them, or what you have to offer, or a service that you have to do, or whatever it is. If you want to get into painting, artistic painting, or even painting walls, start. You may be crappy at it at the beginning. Who cares? Start. Just start. Get going. Get on your feet and learn as you go. I've said this before, and maybe I didn't complete this when I said it because I can't remember in the show, that entrepreneurs, people who are successful, gain their wings on the way down. When they fail, when things fall apart, when things don't go right, and they start falling, that's when they start kicking in to start again. There's nothing wrong with starting again, and their wings get stronger every time they fail. Every time you fail, your wings will get stronger as long as you keep starting and you don't quit. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Thanks for listening. I'm Will Sinclair, and you're listening to The Real Truth About You. And you can get more podcasts of this type at therealtruthaboutyou.com. I'm hoping to get more resources on the website. The website, too, is a work in progress. It's a success story in progress, just like the podcast. So remember, share this message with as many people as you can. If you have to, burn it onto a CD for somebody who doesn't play MP3s or whatever. But help us to get this message out. Please, would you do that for me? Help us to get this message out to everybody. And go to The Real Truth About You if you want more shows or anything. But biggest thing, have an awesome, awesome, awesome day. Because you know what? You rock.